Wait a second. It seems like we
Oh, come on, Ross. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. A little technical difficulty. We've got through that. So the regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, January 13th, 2025 will be called to order at 7:04. At this time, please join us for the invocation given by Alderman Gay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow your heads if you wish. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to wake up and be present in the year 2025, for giving us the opportunity to see new life, new adventures, new experiences, all of which you have predestined and laid out for us. Lord God, we're so grateful for your grace and mercy, for your forgiveness, for your uplifting in times of difficulty. Lord God, we ask that you bless each and every soul in the chamber under the sound of my voice, and those across the city of Annapolis, those in our most vulnerable communities, those without food, shelter, or water. Lord God, we ask that you give them guidance. Show them that the true miracles that you are able to perform. Lord God, those across the country experiencing difficulty, in California and southern parts of our country experiencing extreme freezing, we ask that you bless those families. Bless the first responders eagerly fighting those fires and responding to emergencies. Lord God, we ask that you bless those across the globe in Gaza as they defend their land and fight for the freedoms that they believe in. We are so thankful for your grace and mercy, Lord God. And we ask for great guidance in the year 2025. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Here.
Alderman Huntley.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Present.
Alderman Gay.
Present.
Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda and amend it to add SA 25-25, via Maryland Department of Health and State Revenue, to add R4-25, City of Annapolis Plastic Ban Reduction Act Fines Correction, and to remove AP 44-24, reappointment of Bob Harubi, and AP 45-24, reappointment of Jay Schwartz. Could I get a motion for that, please?
Second.
All those in favour, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is ceremonial items. City Council Citation ID 125, Elvia Thompson and Lynn Forsman of Annapolis Green.
All right. Can my two favourite people come forward? No. Bring up my green brother. And hold this for you. Sorry.
All right. So on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Annapolis, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Annapolis Green for 18 years of unwavering commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainability. Through impactful initiatives like Green Drinks Annapolis, which brought together eco-conscious individuals from the greater Annapolis environmental and business communities to collaborate and learn, Kick Gas Annapolis EV shows educated drivers about the benefits of electric vehicles. The organization has also spearheaded influential campaigns, including Don't Suck, Sip Responsibly, which engaged local restaurants in reducing plastic straw usage, and Plastic Free Annapolis, a partnership with the city to help residents and businesses transition to reusable and compostable alternatives to single-use plastics. The installation of Naptown Tap portable water refill stations has successfully eliminated tens of thousands of single-use plastic bottles annually. Your sustainable initiatives have set remarkable records, including composting over 15 tons of waste at the Annapolis Rotary Crab Feast. We're deeply grateful for all that Annapolis Green has accomplished over the past 18 years, leaving a legacy of environmental progress and positive change. Thank you.
You're going to be fighting for the microphone, but if any of you would like to say something, we...
Just a huge thank you, everybody. It was really a lot of fun. And thank you to everybody who has supported us and listened to our crazy ideas, and crazy ideas that had a lot of meaning and a lot of support, and we hope a lot of oomph to go forward. Elvie and I have both been cleaning out some of our tombs of information, and boy, could we tell some stories. So anyway, thank you all very much for a great ride, and we can only say may all of our programming carry forward, and all of you keep making this city beautiful, responsible, clean, and green.
So years ago, we would have seen plastic water bottles all over the desks behind us here. Right now, there's only one in the room, Dick Franio.
Supporter of our taps.
That's right. They made you do it. Anyway, don't forget, as Lynn said, don't forget this, everything that we tried to tell you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
So good evening, and thank you for being here and also for tuning in. I hope everyone had a great holiday and New Year celebration. Over the break, sadly, 3 former city staffers passed, and I'd like to take a moment to remember them. Patricia Dolores Tiggs served as administrative support in the Annapolis Department of Transportation for 34 years. She passed on December 24th at 81 years of age. Scott Svoboda was captain here at the Annapolis Fire Department, where he served for 23 years. He passed away on December 27th at the age of 49. And Wayne Parker was an equipment operator with DPW and served the city for 14 years. He was 62 years old at the time of his passing on December 27th. One of his sons, Jamar, is a superintendent of Annapolis Transit, and our hearts go out to him. Let us now take a moment of silence to honor these former colleagues and their service to our community and hold their families in our hearts. Thank you. Last week, Annapolis experienced its worst snowstorm in 8 years and the longest run of freezing temperatures in decades. I would like to thank our DPW snow crews who put in the long hours preparing and responding to this event. For 4 days, they worked 24 hours a day in 12-hour shifts. We recognise that our residents aren't used to having snow and ice hanging around this long. Usually we return to higher temperatures in a few days. We thank everyone for their patience. Not only did we have to deal with 9.5 inches of snow, but the extreme cold also limits the effectiveness of salting operations. I hope your families enjoyed the snow. I'd almost given up on snow, so I was excited when it came. I saw children taking advantage of the days off school to sled and have fun. So again, thank you all for your patience for removing your vehicles from emergency snow routes and utilising free garage parking. We thank you for giving our plough drivers the space they need to effectively do their work. I also want to remind everyone that clearing sidewalks is the responsibility of property owners, so thank you to everyone who ensured that was done in a timely way. And lastly, I encourage residents to use the Report a Problem portal on the city website. This helps us immensely. These reports go straight to DPW Dispatch, where the next available crews will be assigned. And so tonight, I must also talk about the City Dock, because misinformation and misunderstanding in the past week or so have seen some very incorrect information being shared and also promoted. Here are the facts. The City Dock Resilience Plan has been repeatedly brought before the community and this council. We have made multiple changes over the past few years to reflect and accommodate feedback. However, from the beginning, our harbour master was set to be relocated because the creation of a 6 to 8 foot earthen berm, the major component of flood protection, cannot be built with the existing harbour master structure in place. This has been true from the first sketches of the City Dock Park design. I encourage you to go back to the original drawings and see and review them. It seems from some comments I've seen that some people are conflating removal of the Harbour Master building with the Maritime Welcome Centre, which is a completely separate project going through its own series of planning approvals. The City Dock Resilience Plan for a park with community amenities, accommodations for the boat show and other events, and complete flood protection through a raised berm and a range of other flooding barriers has been approved by both the Planning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission. But there are some who are clearly seeking to prevent this project, designed with the community and for the community, from being completed. Stopping or delaying the City Dock project will not only be devastating for businesses and for the future of downtown, but it will also cost taxpayers millions. Reasonable people can come to different political conclusions, even when presented with the same set of facts. That's fine, and that's part of the political process. What is not okay is misrepresenting the facts to win a political argument. City officials have to be transparent and truthful, not only in scores of public meetings, but in filings to FEMA, to Maryland Historic Trust, to critical area commissions, to the City Council, and to our independent City of Annapolis commissions. Our resilience plan is clear, our funding plan is clear, and the approvals have been clear. I would also like to remind everyone that when we ran for re-election in 2021, we ran on a very clear platform to complete this project. When we were re-elected, including most of this council, it was with overwhelming support. That is the democratic process, and we cannot let a small or anonymous set of narrow interests outweigh that mandate. That is why we will continue moving this project forward with the broad support of city residents, A resolution will come before the council tonight on the urgency of flood protection to downtown and the need to implement our resilience plan to protect our businesses, residents, the historic fabric of downtown buildings, and it's literally what historic preservation means. While the council can and often does suspend the rules on urgent matters, we are not doing so tonight because we want to show we are not afraid of scrutiny or commitment, even from special interests that don't represent the good of all of our community. The good news for the council and the public who want to see the flood protection at City Dock is that this project and our process is getting lots of positive attention. This Friday, I'll be presenting our Garage P3 at the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Washington, D.C., as part of their annual winter meeting. The great thing about the U.S. Conference of Mayors meetings are that we are elected officials most likely to meet and know our constituents. When we are together, there aren't blue mayors or red mayors. We are people working towards bettering our communities. The P3 program and the resilience work at City Dock is interesting and valuable to them because what we are dealing with here and the things that municipalities across America are dealing with are the same. The City Dock Consensus Plan is an amazing project. We aimed to create a strategy to protect downtown from flooding. This plan will do that for generations. We sought to create a public space and improve public water access. This plan does just that. The City Dock Consensus Plan will improve environmental outcomes, enhance quality of life for our residents, visitors, and also our businesses. And finally tonight, I'd like to remind the public that city offices are closed on Monday in observance of Dr. King's holiday. At our next meeting, I'll tell you about our State of Black Annapolis series during Black History Month that will be presented on consecutive Tuesdays throughout February. Thank you everyone for listening. Now let's go down with the meeting. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is report by committees.
Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Transportation Committee met in December 11th. We did have an update from Premium Parking, talking about some of the requests that we've put through to make Hillman a little bit more user-friendly. We're waiting on answers of those. We talked about two pieces of legislation, the parking and towing regulations, and we gave a favorable recommendation for that, as well as the Police Department O-2824, the property and contraband of disposal. We also gave a positive recommendation for that. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 12th at 4 p.m. here in Council Chambers.
Thank you. Alderman Huntley.
The Finance Committee met on January 8th. That's the last Wednesday. And I'm very pleased to report that we favorably reported SA 2525, which will be on our agenda today, the Maryland Department of Health grant towards cancer screenings for our firefighters. The committee also continued our discussion on R5324 about changes in the position classifications and pay plan. We had some more questions for our city staff that we're looking forward to getting answered at our next meeting. And finally, the committee recommended favorably R5724, the annual meeting and tourism industry reception fee waiver.
Thank you. Alderman Shannemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters met on December 18th, where we heard O3124, food service vendors signage, which was recommended favorably with amendments. And then we also heard O3224, the sprinkler system requirement clarification. We postponed action after hearing from our fire marshal's office. Planning and zoning was not able to make it, so we have requested that they be present at our next meeting to give us some further updates on the sprinkler process. As we're going through this, we are finding out how complicated the sprinkler system process is in historic buildings, and how we are approaching a 5-year deadline that may not be able to be hit by a large portion of our buildings, and what can we do to make that possible. So our normal Economic Matters meeting would have been this upcoming Wednesday, but due to other events, we are postponing it, and instead we will be meeting Wednesday, January 22nd at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Standing Committee has not met since November. We've got a lot of active and busy people on our dais, and we're trying to get a date. And so we don't have a date yet for January, but we're going to have to get a date for January because it's my understanding, Ms. Jackson, that we have 2 pieces of legislation that we need to deal with. Thank you. So we will get a date very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules and City Government Committee met on January 3rd. We heard 029 permit requirements related to buildings and construction standards. We postponed action, expecting or needing to hear additional information from the planning director. We also addressed 03524, care cannabis employment practices, for which we gave a favorable recommendation. R5324, changes to executive pay ranges. We postponed action, still needing additional information. And R54, same type of legislation dealing with position certifications or classifications. Postponed action on both of those until February 7th. And we heard a report on the comprehensive rezoning, and we will be looking for legislation that speaks to that. Our next meeting will be on Friday, February 7th at 1 o'clock here in Council Chambers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Environmental Matters met on January 9th, and one of the things I wanted to bring to the council's attention is we did discuss ID 925, which is Resilience Authority. They came and spoke to us about the Annapolis Maritime Resilience Initiative Project, AMRI, and this is a project that will be looking at Spa Creek and Back Creek as far as making sure that the addressing any kind of flooding issues and flooding threats from climate change and sea level rise. And in particular, they're going to be looking at using natural methods to reduce the risk of flooding. And that's going to be on public and private property. So they're just starting the process, so you'll probably hear more from them as they move along. We also heard from Public Works because they are working on making sure the street end parks in Eastport primarily are going to be protected from sea level rise. So that could involve some structural improvements, pipe improvements, so on and so forth. So I'll try to keep you informed as that moves along. We also heard an update from Rec and Parks about Cars Beach plans. Those also are kind of just getting underway, but there are 2 different projects. There's the shoreline project there, and then there is the more cultural programming improvements that are going to be done on that property. Beyond that, we recommended favorably 03124, which is the food service vendor signage as amended, and we postponed action on the pay plan. Our next meeting is February 13th at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
Right. During comments by the general public, you may not speak on one item that has its own separate public hearing. So if you signed up and you're here to speak to 010-24 outdoor dining requirements in Annapolis, I'll call you up separately. But for anything else, please come forward. And the first person signed up to speak is Susan Wheatley.
Good evening. My name is Susan Wheatley, and I live at 159 Monticello Avenue here in Annapolis.
I am one of 5 co-founders of Save Our Trees, and we are here tonight to thank you specifically for passing the stormwater fee increase in fiscal year '25. This increase is providing much-needed funding for the city's urban forestry program, including street tree maintenance and tree planting throughout the city. This funding is critical to meeting the city's tree canopy goal of 50% by 2050. Investing in our trees provides benefits to all residents of Annapolis and for generations to come. And doing this gave us great encouragement to continue on. And Save Our Trees is here tonight to recommit to you that we are with you in the goal of increasing our tree canopy to 50% by 2050. We will do our part organizing community events to save and protect trees, empower others to take action, advocate for native trees and removal of non-native invasive vines. We have set a goal to save 5,000 trees from English ivy and other invasive vines this year. To kick off our winter-spring season, Save Our Trees is hosting our second community forum on February 24th from 5:30 to 7:45 p.m. at the Bush Annapolis Library. And I apologize that it's on a Monday night, but it was the only night that was available. Our guest speakers so far are Brian Adams, the Annapolis City Urban Forester, Ryan Cuccia, Forester with Bartlett Tree Experts, who's also bringing 50 redwoods and dogwoods to give away to citizens who promised to plant them. Last year's event was a great success. More than 50 residents attended with great enthusiasm. Truxton Park, Cedar Ridge, Saltaire, Eastport, Brewer Hill, the Annapolis Library, St. Martin's Lutheran Church, Hunt Meadows, the Children's Museum, the Chesapeake Children's Museum, and other areas have and are in the process of saving trees. Please help us to continue to get the word out. Introduce us to people in your ward that we can help organize events. We will send you an email that you can forward with details. Also, you can reach out to us at saveourtreestogether@gmail.com. And personally, and also from my husband, he wanted to make sure that I got this in, we want to thank you for your service to the Annapolis community. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mark Kleinsmith.
Mark Kleinschmidt, Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce, 1910 Town Center Boulevard in Annapolis. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to just make some comments concerning the City Dock project. And I think that moving it forward, to say move it forward expeditiously would be kind of ironic given how long that it's taken. A lot of comments have been made about not having enough public input into the project. Through the City Dock Action Committee, which I had the opportunity to chair one of the committees, there was many meetings, and most of us had attended a lot of those. But what you also need to know is through the Chamber of Commerce, we hosted many meetings, informational sessions with our members that may have reached several thousand folks to talk about it. The other thing we need to realize, the truth is that many people don't get to come out and participate in the public meetings. Although the City Dock had a lot, there's a lot of folks who did not. And I can tell you for a fact that many people, the majority of people, do support the project. Continued delay will be harmful to the city, both economically and environmentally. The input that we've gotten across the board has been significant, and I think council has acted wisely up to this point. So making an exception or suspending rules to move forward, I think, would be prudent at this time. We never know what Mother Nature might do, and we look what happened to our friends in California. The City Dock Resiliency Project is not just meant to build a park, but it's also meant to preserve history and preserve businesses. By raising up the ground, it'll be a great way to prevent any future flooding. And who knows what Mother Nature might have in store in terms of the perfect storm. And we know that sunny day flooding is a problem down there, but one day into the future, not near future, but maybe 2, 3, 5 years from now, when the big one comes and we're not prepared, it could be catastrophic and we could be in a situation what we're seeing our friends in California. So I'd like to urge the council to move forward with the project as expeditiously as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next person signed up is Eric Evans. Please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Evans, 38 Citygate Lane, Annapolis. It's time to fix the flooding on City Dock. For far too long, I watched businesses flood, rebuild, or close for good around the City Dock due to flooding. The city and community have been working through multiple city administrations since at least 2013, giving input on this project. 98% of the City Dock project has gone through all of the city approval processes. Can we all agree that it's time to support moving forward on the approved parts of the project and understand that the very small part that has not yet been already approved is still going through the community feedback and processes through the city for approval, and that things could still even change with those. So businesses can stay afloat, they can hire employees and preserve history. Let's move forward on preserving our downtown. Everyone is aware that inflation and continued delays not only hurts affected businesses, but also hurts the taxpayers that will have to pay for increases due to the inflation that happens with this delay. I also wanted to speak on behalf of the Annapolis Arts District regarding R3824, which is about the gas station at 245 West Street. This property is in MX zoning, which originally required multiple uses and development and should be returned to that definition. As is part of the Annapolis Arts District, it is also been recently added to the 2040 comp plan. If the city wishes to take control of the property or just force the sale of the property due to the current proposed developer who has a pending contract on the property, we should be mandating that the property becomes a vibrant part of the community as a mixed-use site that includes an arts use. These uses are consistent with the zoning and the Arts District designation approved by the city and the state. The Annapolis Arts District welcomes the opportunity to work with the city and developers that will one day own this property to make this happen in a way that benefits the entire community. Thank you for your consideration and time on these matters.
Thank you, Eric. Next person signed up to speak is Matt Schatz. Sorry. Sorry.
Hi, I'll be brief because I'm going to echo some of their comments. Matt Schatzel, in the Tecumseh building in Eastport, so 3127 Avenue. 100%, you can see the timeline there. That's 6 years right there, plus Eric 2013. I'm not an expert on everything in there, but it's much needed. I was at the Ocean Conservancy for 6 years full-time with the Sea Level Rise Institute. We're projected this town, we're one of the top in the country at 1.5 feet by 2050. Which doesn't sound very far away for all of us or me, who's probably won't be around in 2050, but for my kids and everyone else, it's not far away. And on that timeline there, it's another 4 of that and you're at 2050. So I think we need to get busy. It's everyone I talk to, businesses, individuals that I know are completely for it. So it's time to kind of move on. There's been so many meetings and so much comment over the years. It's been great stuff, you know, good dialogue, but it's time to move on. So hope you guys support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Next person signed up is Mary O'Brien.
Mary O'Brien, and I've been a liveaboard for 15 years at 301 4th Street. I've repeatedly asked council to amend the task force bill, you're probably sick of hearing from me, so that it studies commercial marine rentals and removes the myriad of references to liveaboards in residential use. As introduced, this bill did not get at the heart of the issue. I wish people would stop using the word residential entirely. Nobody is residing on the commercial marine rentals being proposed. If the sponsors had asked to study commercial marine rentals, that would have been a fine idea. There are community concerns to discuss regarding these business proposals. But that's not what this bill focuses on, unfortunately. The bill's title is, quote, Task Force to Study Residential Marine Vessels. The bill's purpose is, quote, to investigate houseboats, floating homes, and other residential marine vessels. Again, nobody is residing, living, or calling home the commercial business vessels used as charters or Airbnbs. These are businesses. Amendments 3, 4, and 5 are incredibly helpful. Any continued focus, though, on private boat owners living aboard their boats is not helpful, as this is something that nobody has a problem with and hasn't had a problem with for the many decades we've been part of this community. We contribute toward our marinas taxes, save boats in storms, fish out drunken tourists, run off thieves, vote in city elections, work at small local businesses, serve on charity boards, participate in sailing regattas, burn our socks at the equinox like anyone else, and contribute to the maritime cultural heritage of Eastport. There is no problem with us, and the voters of Eastport overwhelmingly seem to appreciate our presence as their neighbors, and from whom I've talked to, wish we hadn't been somehow caught up in this legislation. I would like to once again ask that the council consider changing the name from Task Force to Study Residential Marine Vessels to Task Force to Study Commercial Marine Rentals, and change the purpose to investigate marine vessels used for commercial purposes. As introduced, the bill's mandate to, quote, develop recommendations for tracking and regulating liveaboards, including registration, permitting, inspection, enforcement procedures, make no sense. There are many people who cruise through Annapolis for weeks or months, who live aboard their boats, contribute to the tourist economy, as well as downsizing retirees, folks who live part-time on their boats, and more. Defining and regulating this does not make sense and logically would be a nightmare. Again, there is no problem currently with people who reside on their recreational boats, such as myself. So I urge council to adopt the amendment that strikes this provision. In summary, the task force bill is currently focusing on residents on boats, not on the short-term rental hotel charter vessels being proposed. The neighbors are not concerned about us, they're concerned about the commercial vessels. So I'd ask, why are we focusing on liveaboards at all here? And to change topics to a happier note, I also wanted to echo folks, I'm very excited to take my nieces and nephews down to the city dock, to the new green space, and I can't wait for it to happen. I participated on some of the planning processes 10 years ago when we were trying to do this, and so it's long overdue. I can't wait for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, next up, Janet Nevis, please come forward.
Good evening, council members. My name is Janet Neves. I'm at Eastern Avenue. I am a liveaboard resident for 5 years now and living my lifelong dream. My daughter and I live on a 44-foot motor yacht and are proud to be a part of this vibrant maritime community. It's important to me that the language in Resolution 4624 used accurately depicts what it is to be a liveaboard and the community family that is created by this unique and beautiful way of living. Liveaboards in this resolution are defined as a boat that a person uses as their home. The current definition would technically include anyone who spends one night on their boat, as a liveaboard does not differentiate between commercial vessel and private vessel, either in this definition. Definitions for houseboat and house barges, both are with flat bottom hulls and are not designed for navigation, only house barges are allowed in Annapolis. These need to be clarified in this definition. Under the specific restrictions per city code, only those house barges are allowed. Moreover, it appears to introduce additional layers of regulation for liveaboards. Our community is already subject to strict oversight from marinas, state and federal regulations, and insurance requirements. We cannot even rent a marina slip without insurance. And insurance is an extensive process which involves a survey of the vessel in and out of the water, must be renewed yearly, and obtain a new survey about every 4 years. Over-regulating this is unnecessary and unfair. The existing systems ensure compliance with safety, environmental, and operational standards. Liveaboards like myself are also committed to the health and sustainability of our waterways. We are boaters and we are Annapolitans. It is illegal to discharge waste into the bay, and we strictly adhere to these environmental protections because the water is our home. Many of us have composting heads to help protect the environment and use the marina bathhouses. The pump-out boat schedule is more than sufficient for those that do not use that over the winter. As slip holders and labeled as liveaboards, we also pay higher marina fees, which contribute to local taxes, utilities, and maintenance. This makes us tenants renting the slip with access to electricity and water. We are active members of the community. My daughter races with the Annapolis High School sailing team and the Annapolis Yacht Club junior racing team. We volunteer and support the maritime industry and local businesses, contributing to the city's culture and economy. I urge the council to clarify and refine the definitions as listed for liveaboards, houseboat, barges, etc. avoid overregulation, and separate personal vessels from commercial and short-term rentals in both definitions and regulations to ensure fairness and relevance. I thank you for your time and consideration and invite you to come and experience what it is to be a liveaboard. And to me, that is the quintessential Annapolis experience. I thank you for your time. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Our next person signed up is Karen Brown. Please come forward, Karen.
Good evening. My name is Karen Timer Brown. I'm the president of Historic Annapolis. I have just a few brief comments, but I would like to speak to Resolution 325 City Dock Resiliency Project that will be introduced this evening. We're pleased that you have dropped to the vote to suspend the rules, and I want to acknowledge the alderpersons from Ward 1 to Ward 2 who had voiced opposition to this proposal through their e-newsletter and constituent outreach. Both spoke to the need to adhere to regular order, and we believe that adhering to the process is really important, even more so with a project of this magnitude. So we will be providing more substantive comments as this resolution goes through the process, but I'd like to reiterate Historic Annapolis' support for a complete flood barrier protection plan. We too support a resilient waterfront that'll protect our historic landscape for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Richard Healy.
Good evening. My name is Richard Healy. I reside at 7364 Edgewood Road over on Back Creek. And as like some of the other folks here before, I do live aboard a private vessel. It's a 47-foot ketch that could go around the world tomorrow. I could throw off the lines and just go. It's very much unlike a commercial rental, the Airbnb sort of charters that people who were concerned about that caused the bill to be raised. And I would like to thank each and every one of you who's taken the time to listen to the various members of the people who do live aboard here in Annapolis. And I really welcome the amendments that have been proposed. And just to speak to one or two of them, particularly the one that concerns itself with pump outs. People who live aboard tend to choose their marinas very carefully because we choose marinas that have great bathhouses. Although we all have capabilities, holding tanks on board that would make us compliant with state and federal laws, nobody uses it on their boat, or to a very limited extent, and then we use the pump out when possible. There is one marina on Back Creek I wasn't able to get into initially, and they have the best bathhouses in town. I would have loved to have been there initially, but I'm very happy with where I landed because it's more than adequate, and the rent's actually a little cheaper than the other place, but I'm not going to name names. So basically, the impact on the pump out system isn't very large from the liveaboard community because we don't tend to constantly use the service only on an as-need basis. One of the other things is that I really welcome is the striking of was Amendment 5, I believe, to strike marine residential and replace it with short-term rental. And part of the reason that would totally delineate the problem, and it would focus the bill on what the bill was initially focused on, and that was the concern of residents of people renting these big, large barges and throwing parties all hours of the night and doing all sorts of things. I believe the only party that ever happened on my vessel was when my son was in high school and I went to Europe for a week, and none of the other neighbors ratted hso I guess it wasn't much of a problem, but he did leave some evidence and I found out about it afterwards. That was about 3.5 years ago. He's now a junior in college. So that would completely delineate the problem. We are very much like the ham radio service, where the FCC allows ham operators to use bandwidth because it's a public service. We provide a service to the marinas because, especially in the winter, those of us who are in the winter are the eyes and ears for the marina owners and operators and for other businesses that are there. So just last week, the owner of one of the large marine yacht management companies asked me to keep an eye on a vessel that they had on the Hard because it had frozen up, and they were doing extraordinary measures to dethaw the vessel. And just to keep an eye on it, and if anything unusual were to occur, to call him. I have his personal cell phone number. All the neighbors do. So that's one thing we do. Also, just keeping an eye on the docks. Last year, instead of this crazy snowstorm that we had, I don't know how many of you recall the high water we had last year, but it actually reached about 3 feet over the docks on Back Creek. Down here, of course, in downtown Annapolis, it was very egregious. And basically the marina manager asked me, hey, when it gets up to the point where it looks like it's going towards the power box up on the shore, could you please go turn the power off to the docks, which I did. So, and that eventually was about 3 feet, high, and I rode it out on the boat and kept adjusting lines. So we do provide a service to the community in just our being there and keeping our eyes on it. And we don't tax the systems overly because that was the main concern, was the pump out and the environmental aspect. And so I'd like to thank you all for taking that into consideration for the proposed amendments.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Please come forward. Come on up. State your full name and address.
I did sign up, and I guess
Yeah, I didn't see it. Oh, okay. Sorry, that's on the outdoor cafe one. So no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please come forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Eddie Esworthy, 301 4th Street. I've lived aboard my boat for 21 years. It's a 40-foot flybridge, regular-looking boat. And I can't really add too much to the folks that already come above me or before me, so I'll just keep this short. While I'm initially and continue to be against this task force, I realize the train's left the station on that one. And I appreciate the work you guys have put in and the amendments that you've added that I feel make it slightly better, including all the amendments. Amendment number 5, I think, is the one that changes some of the language. I'd like to see that plastered throughout the entire bill to eliminate the marine residential wording and put it with either commercial or the word that it says in there. I can't remember, commercial or short-term rentals. That's what it was. Also, to reiterate how we do help a little bit, just the other night we had a bunch of break-ins over in the Eastport side, people breaking in the cars. Those guys were on our dock, and while I didn't run them off, my dog sure did, and that helped. None of our boats got broken into on our dock at Pier 4. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Okay, seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar.
Could I get a motion for the consent calendar?
I have Mr. Mayor. I have a question, or if I need to, I want to pull SA 1825.
You want to? Can we get a motion first?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and Alderman Gay, what moved to the back end something?
SA 1825.
Yep.
Which is Housing Task Force. I'm sorry, Housing Trust Fund.
Okay, we got you. Yep, thank you so much. Okay, roll call.
Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderman Huntley.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, lots of work to get to tonight. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous internet informational items, ID 2725, memorandum legislative term ending deadlines for 2025.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is supplemental appropriations, 50,000 and above, beginning with SA 1725, Forfeiture and Seizure Fund, Police Department, FY 2024 fund balance.
Thank you. Can I get a motion first, please? And a second?
So,
Second, thank you.
Second.
I'll go to Alderman Gay first, then Alderman Savage.
Thank you so much. I just had a quick question on this. In the budget, when the forfeiture and seizure fund came up, when we were trying to amend it, there were, I believe, state and federal guidelines on what and where the funding could go to. And I don't recall them being able to use it to lease out property space, which it says on here. Am I reading that incorrectly?
Director Dickinson.
Yes, Jody Dickinson, Finance Director. There are some allowances to pay for leased office space. They're not purchasing a building, they're just leasing space. And there are some allowances for that. As to the specifics, you'd have to ask APD.
Can we post this?
So, and I'll clarify that this essay just observes that they had more fund balance during FY24 than we had originally estimated going into this fiscal year. So we're just giving them the spending authority to do so for the remainder of their fund balance.
I guess I don't need to postpone it. I'll follow up with the department. I'm just curious what.
They'll be able to give you specifics about the lease, why they need lease space.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I had a question for staff, and I apologize I haven't had a chance to go through all my emails since I sent it. But so this is, I was curious why this is not in the operating budget as far as a recurring expense.
These funds are put in a special revenue fund because they're restricted for particular purposes.
Oh, that's right.
So they're not in the general fund. They have their own fund, and we do budget for these separately during the budget process.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is SA 2025 grant, APD, State of Maryland, through the Office of Justice Programs, federal grant revenue.
Can we get a motion on SA 20-25?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is SA 2225 grant, transportation, Maryland Department of Transportation, state grant revenue.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Got a second on that?
Second.
Did. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is SA 2325 general, city manager reserve for one-time uses.
Okay, could I get a motion on SA 23-25?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, may I request a recorded vote on this?
Yep.
What is he requesting?
Just to record the vote, a roll call?
Yes.
Sure.
I say 2325.
Okay.
Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Bendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Okay, aye. Yeah.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Huntley?
Nay.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Can I ask a question on that actually?
To the director,
Yeah.
Director Dickinson? Yes.
I'm just curious. I thought before we approve the funding, we would have a report from Director Guild with how the actual program would operate.
Thank you.
In the application process. I'm sorry.
Director Dickinson, would you have information on that, or Director Guile?
I
Director, sorry,
think
that's
Ms. Skiles should come up and
Deputy
address the
City.
program itself.
Sorry, thank you.
Good evening, Jackie Guile, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability. So as I reported last time I was before committees, this program is being considered by the Resilience Authority for their administration of a voucher program as a transition assistance to residents and businesses, lawn care and landscaping businesses, as they transition from gas-powered leaf blowers to electric leaf blowers. So at this time, that request is the board of the Resilience Authority referred it to their council to make sure that this type of voucher program assistance would be consistent with Resilience Authority's mandate. I'm waiting to hear back a decision from them. If that is a decision and that they will not take on the voucher program as the operator, then the city staff will create that program. So we don't have the details on it yet, but we have we provided in our staff reports outlines of how we potentially see it functioning, with about $100 rebate to residents and $1,500 rebates to the commercial businesses. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Director. Mr. City Manager, next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is supplemental appropriations under $50,000, beginning with SA 2525, Fire, Maryland Department of Health, State Revenue, State Grant Revenue in the amount of $39,975. Expenditure, State Grant Expense, $39,975.
Could I get a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is SA 1825, Affordable Housing Trust, Department of Planning and Zoning, FY 2024 Affordable Housing Trust Fund Balance.
I guess I can just ask my question now instead
You
of.
need to move it.
You want to move it and then?
So move.
In a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. I'm assuming this is similar to the one we were talking about with the police department. So the 11,000 is just going straight to the rental assistance program.
Correct. It's additional FY24 funds that we want permission to spend, so we can spend more on the rental assistance.
Okay.
It's related to the occupancy taxes that are designated for that purpose.
Fantastic. Well, can we get a, I'm sure your office is tracking, can we maybe have a spreadsheet of just over the last year how things have come in and out? I know that's been, all of our constituents use it. I know we passed FY24, and by October, the funds were pretty much gone, and so that just would be great to have a better understanding of the spending. Thank you.
All right, we'll have OCS pull that for you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is fund transfers, beginning with fund transfer FT 525, General Police Department Supplies and Other Capital Outlay.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with Ordinance 01024, Outdoor Dining Requirements in Annapolis.
All right, there is no one signed up to speak in this, but I can see someone that might want to come forward and speak. If they would like, they're quite welcome to come and speak to the amazing outdoor dining that we all enjoy in Eastport. Anybody? Okay, great. Okay. Anybody else like to come forward? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I declare the public hearing on O-10-24 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative action on first readers, beginning with Ordinance 0125, expansion of childcare options in Annapolis.
Is there a motion to adopt O-1-25 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Can I refer, sorry, Alderman Gay?
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you.
I
Great.
do have a question as well for the city clerk, if possible. If theoretically, if a member introduces legislation and are appointed to a higher office, are their colleagues able to carry the bill so this would not die?
Once legislation is introduced on first reader by the council, it's the council's legislation.
Regardless of sponsor. Thank you.
Mhm.
I appreciate the optimism, but let's not worry about that yet.
That's how much you care. Thank you. Thank you for caring. I'd like to refer that to Rules of City Government Committee, Environmental Matters Committee, and the Planning Commission. Mr. City Attorney, oh, sorry, Alderman Gay?
Could you also send it to the Annapolis Education Commission?
Yes, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 0225, WRNR radio tower lease with the city.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt O-2-25 on first reader?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is resolution R125 Thompson Street Park.
Is there a motion to adopt R-1-25 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Could I refer R-1-25 to the Finance Committee and also O-2-25? I forgot to put that into the record. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is resolution R325, City Dock Resiliency Project Support.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Before that, I'd like to bring forward one of our people from Office of Emergency Management, Dave Mandel. Please come forward. Our Public Works Director, Burr Vogel, and Eileen Fogarty, who's been spearheading the City Dock Resilience Plan since 2019, to speak to for a few minutes each to put some of the facts forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Council.
There we go. Good evening. Dave Mandel, Burr Vogel, and I are here simply to clarify some statements, reaffirm some statements, and be very brief with the council. First of all, this entire effort, as council knows, has gone back, and I think someone pointed it out this evening, 6 years in March. We keep saying 5, but it's 6 years. And the process itself started with the City Dock Action Committee, but what galvanized that group of 100 residents and business leaders was the urgency of the situation. And of course, it is much more urgent today and much more frequent than it was 6 years ago. They were also galvanized by the fact that we have a heat island in the middle of our city. On our waterfront, we basically have a sea of blacktop. So out of that came, and you have all seen this before, the rendering for the City Dock Resiliency Plan, for which there was consensus. And the mayor pointed out earlier, but we wanted to just point out that from the earliest days, the existing harbor master always had to be removed simply because construction of the major resiliency element of this entire strategy, which is the park, could not go forward with its infrastructure, with its utilities, without that removal. The City Dock project, again, which the mayor mentioned earlier, has been something the city has been absolutely, and the council, dedicated to for the last 6 years. A public-private partnership which now has national acclaim. I think this is the second time the mayor has been speaking with a national group about this partnership. The partnership was created as a financial model, and it was created to really bring together a group. In this case, AMRP was selected to fund, design, and construct the new Hillman Garage and the Resiliency Project itself. As council is well aware, the Hillman Garage was constructed ahead of schedule with 588 spaces in June 14th. Since that time, it has been performing ahead of all expectations, which is terrific. The other element which is very important, and you heard from the chamber tonight, you heard from the downtown partnership, have been the city's partners. The city developed established at an early stage a very tight partnership with the county executive, Stuart Pittman, and the county, with the Naval Academy, with the Resilience Authority, and we have had ongoing partnerships with the Chamber, the Caucus of African American Leaders, Chesapeake Conservancy, Conference and Visitors Bureau, and I apologize to the dozens of groups in the interest of time that we haven't mentioned. Council has been a part of much of the community outreach. The outreach has been unprecedented, even on a national scale. There have been over 350 stakeholder meetings, over 150 public work sessions. Out of all of this, there was many comments, a lot of support, and also some recommendations for modifications. All of that was incorporated, responded to, and what went before the Planning Commission this spring and the Historic Preservation was the approval of the City Dock Resiliency Site Plan. There was also an amendment to the City Dock Resiliency Site Plan, which was approved in September of this past year of 2024. So we are now at the point that this plan is adopted, it's been amended, there is broad-based involvement and support, and we are ready for construction. As I turn this over to Burr Vogel, one other question I was asked to respond to was just clarification regarding some of the comments that have been put out about the cost of the project. Early in the project, the City Dock project, resiliency project, was the only figure that we at the city were releasing. We were separately had a major project, flood control project for Compromise Street. When you see, and Burr Vogel is the person to address this in more detail if you would like, when you see the quotes of all of this at $100 million, it reflects the combination of both projects. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Vogel.
You've all seen this a number of times. I'm really just here to answer questions and to talk a little bit about the construction schedule, why it's important that we not allow any legal challenges to hang up this project. So as you can see, if we were to keep the Harbor Master building there, it would require major revisions to this design. We're about $5 million into the design process. And to go back and revisit decisions from 5 years ago, you know, it would mean we don't start this project probably until about 2030 at the earliest. So I would encourage the council to take all steps that you can to support the project that we've all been working on so hard. The final point I'll make, which is about the construction schedule, is that we really, in order to build this park, which is currently planned for construction primarily during the period between the next two boat shows. That would be November of 2025 through September of 2026. We've got to do some preliminary work that's to start building electrical infrastructure. I see people raising their hands. Okay. And so all of that, to get the power on for a 2026 boat show, we need to start some preliminary utility work that's primarily supports removing the overhead electrical lines that are there around Craig Street and the Harbor Master Building. So that's why this is so urgent, is that we need to send a clear message to any audience, a court, that the council, that the city fully supports this project, and that delays of a kind of an administrative or bureaucratic nature, should not be allowed to stop the project. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read the emails that have come through, yay and nay, and there seems to be one common theme that I picked up on, and maybe Mr. Deputy Chief may be able to answer as well as both of you. There seems to be some discussion about FEMA and where FEMA is at this point and what kind of funding, are we gonna get it, not, what is the cart come before the horse and that sort of thing. So I think maybe to allay some fears, that might be something we want to kind of provide information about.
So FEMA has to do a number of things to comply with federal environmental laws, a couple of key acts, the National Environmental Policy Act and the Historic Preservation Act. And so for the things that FEMA are funding, they are required to conduct those reviews. Some of these things that are related strictly for, creating a park amenity, improving the appearance of downtown, don't really have much to do with FEMA. And so they're not required to perform, go through those legal requirements. Does that make sense? So we're not getting into the cart in front of the horse. We've submitted all of our designs to FEMA. FEMA are conducting their reviews, all of the consultations, and we feel good about being ready to go in November for the FEMA-funded portions of the project.
Do you anticipate any hurdles, I'll use that word, with the incoming administration in Washington, D.C.?
We do not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Dave Mandel with the Office of Emergency Management, here to address the flooding aspect over at City Dock. This is a chart based on the flood gauge at the Naval Academy showing...
Just check your microphone, please. Oh, great, thank you.
Let me speak closer to it. How about that? Okay, all right, a little closer. So this is a chart showing the exponential increase in flooding from the Naval Academy tide gauge since the 1930s. And this is a chart that is stapled to every application we put for City Dock. As a matter of fact, a study from the federal government a few years back found that Annapolis had the greatest increase in flooding days at 925% over the last 5 or 6 decades. So you're looking at the greatest increase in the entire nation right here on this chart. That goes through, obviously, the end of the last decade. Updating it from there, the posters that the mayor's office put together there on the side mentions in 2019 we had 61 flooding days. That was the record in terms of the number of days in which the flooding level had reached at least minor flood stage. Until this year, we hit about 120 in 2024. We didn't just barely beat the record. I think we beat it at the end of June. We doubled the record this year. Furthermore, 2024 was the only year, has been the only year where we've had 2 top 10 all-time flooding events at City Dock in Annapolis ever. We had the 3rd highest in January a year ago. Someone was referencing that earlier in their comments. That was the highest flood we've ever seen not connected to a tropical event in January, no less. Never seen that before. In August, we had the 8th highest flood ever at City Dock. That was connected to Tropical Storm Debbie. So we're seeing just a smashing of all kinds of flooding records in Annapolis in 2024. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. There was a study a few years back that found to a statistically significant probability the level at which city dock businesses were losing revenue based on occurrences of flooding. And when you project that out to correlate with the expected increase in sea level rise, the expected losses, economic losses, if no action is taken, is about $125 million by 2055. So considering that level of cost when no action is taken, the City Dock project is a cost-beneficial investment in the city. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All done. Just wanted to brief everybody there. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. I'm confused, and this is a question for my colleagues at this point, on why we aren't suspending the rules tonight. And I get, that there is a tiny bit of, craze out there from a very small few. We've obviously been working on this project forever. I've talked to City of Annapolis residents, obviously that are much older than me, that have been like, oh, well, we started working on this in the 80s and 90s and it was postponed and, nothing ever got done. And what's incredibly ironic to me is that Historic Annapolis, which was established to preserve the city's historic character, both physically and intellectually, is now on the verge of flooding the city, literally, and all of its downtown assets. I don't understand how we can continue to see it flood every single year, especially once we're in the warmer months. We're on WJZ all the time. Gavin's out there. You see people with kayaks going up to the Alex Haley statue. The businesses are shutting down. They come here, they complain because they feel that they aren't being supported. They've got to put up GoFundMes to get new equipment, to pay their staff, to do all of this. We see the evidence. We know we need to move forward on the project, but we don't support initiatives this is a resolution. All it's saying is, hey, as the members of the Annapolis City Council, we believe that this project is critically important and that a small few should not be able to anonymously go to a judge and effectively try to stop the project. I'm just so confused on that. Obviously, they've just said it's going to get more expensive the longer we wait. I just would like clarity on why we don't feel it necessary to suspend the rules or why we feel it necessary to wait.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions. The first one has to do with, because one of the concerns we've heard from some people, and admit it's not very, I've only heard from I think one person in maybe two people in my ward with some concerns. I would say most of my constituents are very supportive of the entire project. But one of the concerns we've been contacted about and has been in the paper is a concern with the inclusion of the Welcome Center into the overall City Dock project. So I'd like for people to understand, if you could speak to some of the process as far as, I guess, first of all, can you explain the inclusion of that into this, how it is included in this project, where it is in the process, but also because, again, one of the concerns we've heard from people is, I think has to do with, well, it's linked to the removal of the Harbor Master existing building, but I think the other concerns have to do with some of the architecture, the size of the building, some of the other design elements. So where is that in the overall process? So I'm just trying to figure out what to tell these folks. Do they have any other, is that set in stone? Is that design?
That has not been through our city's permitting process, our own boards and commissions. So that we have been to the Planning Commission, discussed it with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission has approved. An HPC meeting is forthcoming. What
For the what?
Is going to happen next month.
Okay.
So one or more Historic Preservation Commission meetings are still to happen, specifically for the approval of the Maritime Welcome Center as well as the site improvements around the Burtis House. So I think it's called a petition for judicial review is challenging is the site plan application for just the park. Only the flood barriers and construction of the park is being challenged, and that's what kind of prompted us to request this resolution. Is because we wanted to not have that get hung up in a legal process and prevent construction of those things. And I want to clarify that we very intentionally severed the Welcome Center from the park and the resilience, understanding that they have kind of different permitting tracks. The Welcome Center is sited on land that's subject to a preservation easement with the Maryland Historic Trust. So we didn't know if the Welcome Center would take 2 or 3 years to get kind of a consensus on what sort of a design would be acceptable to all the stakeholders. At the same time, we didn't know exactly how long it would take to get the FEMA approvals and get the grant funding for the main park. So we wanted to be able to construct the 2 sort of portions of the project in any order. And so they're kind of independent. They're not really linked. There are other options. Should we decide we want a smaller Welcome Center, we want a Welcome Center in a different location, perhaps, somewhere between Craig Street and the water, along Prince George Street. Those things are doable, but that's not the direction the city has decided to go. So I just want to again emphasize these are separate actions from the standpoint of how we go through the approval processes. Go ahead.
Yes, and if I could just add, the Welcome Center has had an entirely separate, as Burr has pointed out, process. Last year in 2023, there were over 100 meetings just on the Welcome Center. We went out to ward by ward, went out to the community. There was a major redesign of the Welcome Center based on the comments the city heard in terms of reorienting it, reducing its size. So the Welcome Center had its own completely separate process. We heard the comments, it was redesigned. We took the Welcome Center forward to the Maryland Historic Trust this summer. They approved it conditionally based on the detailed construction drawings. We were all delighted at their approval, and we have taken it before the Planning Commission, where they unanimously approved it. Their approval meeting was in December, but their findings were in January. On I believe it's the 23rd, Thursday of this month, we'll have what's called a pre-application meeting with Historic Preservation Commission, and on February 11th, we'll have a public hearing.
And so that's for the HPC, that is a meeting regarding the Welcome Center in particular? So that includes the proposed design, current design, and everything okay, so when is the public hearing for that?
February 11th, it's a Tuesday night.
Okay. Do you have any information? So I kind of like to request a work session or something just to refresh my memory on, since there's a lot of comments regarding the Welcome Center, just to refresh my memory as far as where we are with that, what the design is, so I can feel better equipped to address some of the questions. I mean, personally, I support the idea. I support the last design that I've seen. I support removing the current harbor master building. Again, based on what I've seen, I personally don't have any problem with that, but I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you all are as far as where it is in the process, what's being proposed exactly. Because I do want to find out if there's a way to, if there is something we need to respond to from some of the critics out there who've been writing articles. Is in some of the articles I've not really heard many specifics as far as just a lot of complaints about us spending money on it, but not really specific things for us to act on. I've heard, besides some of the complaints we've heard for a while as far as blocking some of the view shed. So if you have information you could send us about the view shed, I think that'd be important to have handy. Yeah, I guess that's about.
We can set that up, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Alderman Shannemeyer, then Alderman Arnett, and then Alderman Huntley.
Can I just respond to Alderman Savage very briefly, 1 second?
Sure.
I yield.
Alderman Savage, I'd just say I attended the joint work session of the Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission and found that very informative about the Welcome Center.
Thank you. Alderman Shannemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Vogel, just want to make sure I heard something correctly. The thing that's being challenged in this anonymous lawsuit is the resiliency portions of the project. Did I hear that correctly?
Can I defer to the city attorney? I'll take a crack at it. It's a specific thing. It is, the thing that's being challenged is the Historic Preservation Commission's approval of site plan application number 1, which is the park and the resilience.
Okay.
Which is the what? Sorry. Those
The park, City Dock Park, that's the area from Craig Street to Susan Campbell that includes all of the flood barriers and the construction of the new park.
So the conversion of the parking lot into a park.
Correct. That is all that is being challenged.
That's quite disappointing to hear.
I agree.
Can I just, on the same note, please, really quickly?
Sure. It's up to Alderman Arnett.
Could we go back to the slides, maybe?
Yeah, it's just on this same point. And to my, catch me up to speed again. The historic preservation, the only reason they were really able to do this is they had like new members or something like that, and there was an issue with the way they voted or it was recorded, correct?
I don't think it's just that. It's a number of things, whatever.
But that was kind of the catalyst for...
It's procedural.
Yeah, some sort of procedural error. Okay.
I mean, there's a number of... There's 4 points they're challenging. I don't know those 4 points. There's 4 things that they're suggesting. So, and we can give you all that in a briefing. So, yeah. Thank you. Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Huntley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'm sure like my colleagues, I've received a lot of emails and text messages about this, and I want to thank the community. We do value your input, and I like to think we heed to it, and I think some things that were even in the works for today have been changed, so again, we appreciate the input, and we need it to do proper governance. The other thing I want to say is I'm really happy, and I have been trying to do this myself, to see the separation of the resiliency part of the project, which I call the birthday cake, from the icing and the sprinkles on the cake, which are a separate process and will come later and will have their own time to go through the process. But I think that conflating the visitor center with the resiliency is just not very productive. And I am, and always have been, and in fact, starting in 2011, when Joe Budge and I did one of the first city dock plans, been in favor of the resiliency, and that we really have to stick to. I think Mr. Mendel's testimony, the water is coming, we can't dally. The longer we wait, the more businesses are going to be damaged and so forth. So the resiliency is what we're talking about right now. That's a really important thing to do. And sorry for any confusion to all of our constituents, but I think tonight we're really focusing on the resiliency. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Arnett. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one thing that should kind of give us a jolt is looking at our friends and neighbors in California. If that doesn't move us to do something, I shudder to think where we could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't hear an answer to Alderman Gay's question on why we're delaying this, why we are not approving this evening. What I did hear from Mr. Vogel, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that you had requested this resolution to show that the city the elected leaders in the city are in support without any question about it. Everyone around this dais has said they are in support of. So I too am a little confused on why we won't make this decision tonight. It is a resolution, which means it is the sense of the council. It does not bind us in any capacity at all, but it sends a very clear message. And our refusal to approve it tonight, I believe, also sends a very clear message. And if that's the one we want to send, so be it. We have a process. The process gives us lots of opportunities to do different things that are to the benefit of the city and us, the leaders. So I'm too a lot kind of confused as to why we won't take this step, use the tools that we are given, whether we like them or agree with them or not, use the tools and make this decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman O'Neill had a hand up first, then Alderman Chattermeyer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be the first to admit that I am in support of this resiliency project. I have been since the very beginning. Over the weekend, listening to constituents, the biggest question they had for me was the feeling that we were rushing through this and not providing 100% transparency. When I came onto this council, I made it a point in my campaign to say that I would always listen to constituents, whether I agreed with them or not. And my reason for not suspending the rules is based on the fact that I had more people contact me in the last 4 days than on any other piece of legislation over the last 3 years and 2 months. And the majority of those people just said, please don't suspend the rules. We want to be able to either give more public input, understand more exactly what this is, and by passing it on first reader and discussing it for another 2 weeks until the next meeting, gives the constituents that have reached out to me the sense that we are listening also to them. I understand we've had hundreds of meetings. I understand that maybe it's the same people over and over again saying the same thing, but I heard from people I've never heard from before. And I feel like it's important that we as a council also take that into consideration. And passing this tonight and suspending the rules on second reader doesn't guarantee that we will be able to get started tomorrow. It does give a clear message that, yes, we support it. I think passing it on first reader gives that clear message that we support it, but it gives our constituents the idea that we actually are listening to them, and that's my stance.
Thank you. Who was next? Sorry. Alderman Chattermeyer.
Where I was tonight, I had told constituents that had reached out either in favor of suspending the rules or against suspending the rules that I was previously all on board with trying to get this passed tonight. When I found out the change of plans, I just told them today, this is the new procedure. And after I had told them that, I just don't want to change it last minute. So just got locked into that procedure. But I do greatly share the frustration. This is very urgent. It's representative of a very large problem that a massively needed infrastructure project can get derailed by a very few loud people. And we need to pass this at our next meeting. No more delays.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Alderman Finlayson. I agree entirely. And I just want to make the point, because again, I know it's been said a couple times, but just to reiterate, this is an appeal of the site design for the park and the resilience portion of the project, right? So that is what is being appealed. That is what we were trying to respond to. So I hope that the people who did not want us to suspend the rules tonight come and testify and tell us why they don't support a public park and don't support us building a wall to protect our businesses downtown from flooding. Because that was not addressed in any of the testimony we've heard so far. It was not addressed in any of the written. And interestingly enough, none of the people who wrote articles came to testify tonight publicly. So I really am trying to understand, but I just can't understand why anybody would oppose that and potentially risk delaying such an important project. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Thank you. I just think it's important to respond to some of the concerns, and because listen, I think transparency is incredibly important as well, and I think that's why they've had over 300 public meetings, so that at every step of the way, the public is involved and knows what's going on. If at this point members of the public do not, understand what's going on, I say, hey, look, just do one more public meeting, make everything publicly accessible. At this point, I've been to most of those meetings. I know you have sign-up sheets. Put the sign-up sheets online. Put the meeting agenda, minutes, every single thing. Throw it online. If they want to come pick it up in physical copy, allow them to do so. Don't create any barrier or any excuse so that when we come back in this council chamber on the 27th, somebody can say, I didn't have an opportunity to obtain the information. And so I'm worried about, us missing the opportunity to fund this thing. That's what my biggest concern is. And I think anytime you get involved in, lawsuits, this could stretch on for a while. And I get their concern. I think everybody wants a better downtown, and this is the start of a better downtown. We can't keep it the way it is. So thank you all for doing the work that you all did.
Alderman Huntley.
I just want to very briefly thank all three of those people at the table for all the work you have done. And in particular, not to exclude my friend Eileen, but the two other folks sitting here who also worked very, very hard last week. So thank you for being here right now instead of with your families.
Yeah. So before we call the vote on first reader, I just want to read into the record, the supporters of this project. So the City Council, over numerous occasions, are supporting moving this project ahead. The Planning Commission has supported and voted on this project. The Historic Preservation Commission has supported and voted on this project. County Executive Stuart Pittman supports this project. Alderwoman Ellie Tierney supports this project and was reached out to me today on the project, right? Paris Glendenning spoke in favor of the project. Kurt Schmock, the former mayor of Baltimore, head of the committee that we ran on this project in 2013, supports this project. The U.S. Naval Academy are our partner in this project. They realize the urgency of what we're doing. The Resilience Finance Authority supports this project. The Chamber of Commerce supports this project. The Downtown Annapolis Partnership supports this project. Annapolis and Anne Arundel Conference and Visitors Center, who are in the back there, support this project. Caucus of African American Leaders support this project. The Chesapeake Conservancy reports this project, and thousands of people that I interact with every day are looking forward to creating a park and flood protection that we will all be proud of and that we will show off to the next generation, and a place that will bring people downtown. So just wanted to read into that record. We cannot let historic Annapolis get in the way of preservation. Preservation is what should be our focus, and it's our duty to preserve the historic district and the downtown businesses. So for Historic Annapolis and whoever they put forward to oppose this project, we have to recognize that at the core of what we are doing is preservation and resilience. With that, I'd like to take a vote, and we'll call the vote, please.
Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer?
Aye, please add me as a co-sponsor.
Second.
Same.
I think we're up with everybody. Okay. Alderman Gay?
Aye, yes, co-sponsor this one.
Alderman Savage? I'm sorry.
Aye, co-sponsor, please.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye, and co-sponsor.
Okay, can we do that after we get finished the roll call, please? Confusing. Okay, Alderman Huntley?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Aye. Alderwoman, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Thank you. That's 100% of the council supporting it on first reader. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks to vote. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your testimony. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is Resolution R-425, City of Annapolis Plastic Bag Reduction Act Fines Correction.
Can I get a motion on R-4-25?
So moved.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Green Annapolis will be very happy with you all. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Beginning with second readers, the next item on the agenda, legislative actions on second reader, beginning with ordinance O-1124, Tenant Displacement Fund.
So we have a motion to withdraw this.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Do we withdraw it to a date?
No, it's just withdrawn.
Withdraw, okay. Did you want to discuss it before we vote on the withdrawal? Alderman O'Neill?
No, I wanted to go back one.
Okay. On what we just voted on, the plastic bags?
Correct.
I apologize, I didn't see your hand up. Yes, Alderman O'Neill?
That's okay. I was going to make a motion to suspend the rules to get that passed because the Plastic Bag Reduction Act takes place now.
Okay, after we voted on it, can we
I think
reintroduce it?
we had discussed this by email, I think.
You have to reconsider, don't you? And then
What do I need?
Well, it
there have to be a motion to
was on
reconsider.
second reader.
Make a motion to reconsider R-425.
Okay,
Thank you.
can we finish
Second.
11 to vote on 11?
Okay, we're going to go back to it after 011, so
Okay.
thank you. Sorry, I rushed through that. My apologies.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, you can bring it back up in a second.
You got a motion to withdraw O-1124 with a second.
Yeah, and it has a second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Gay. Motion to reconsider.
Make a motion to reconsider R-425.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, please say aye. Aye. It's 100%, right? Thank you. Next step is
Motion to suspend the rules.
motion to suspend the rules came from Alderman O'Neill. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is that a roll call or a vote?
It's just a voice vote. It's a voice vote. It just needs to be.
Voice vote. Okay, all those in favor of suspending the rules for this, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
I guess we're not suspending the rules.
We're sticklers for process.
Okay, we'll be back here next week. Thank you.
Right along.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present.
Point of order, point of
Yes.
order. The City of Annapolis Plastic Bag Reduction Act was postponed by Alderman Savage. It goes in effect now.
No. You're thinking of the leaf blower thing.
Okay, thank you.
Just technical. Thank you.
It's the leaf bag legislation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
could you
Alderman
make
Finlayson.
could you make the announcement about the plastic bag availability or the reusable bag availability to city residents?
I think Alderman Savage, this was sort of a cleanup amendment, right? And so just, can you talk to that and talk to very quickly about the availability of paper
Right,
bags?
I would like for it to be announced publicly that there are plastic bags being distributed from the city.
I think the deputy city manager maybe.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager for Sustainability and Resilience. Good to see you again.
Thank you. So the plastic bags are being distributed to various centers, to churches. We had a list in our staff report most recently to the Environmental Matters Committee about where they were being distributed. So it's a long list of churches, community centers, at food drives, and then they're either have been distributed or continue to be distributed this week. And we've made note of your church, Alderwoman Finlayson, to bring them there as well. And then there's a second wave that's been ordered of bags, and these bags are cloth bags with handles that are stamped with the City of Annapolis logo that are being distributed for free. We're trying to target them to low and moderate income members of our community. And so the second wave has been ordered, and when that comes in, we'll have them also available on transit buses, and we'll redistribute where they are needed at other sites.
My interest was in making sure that the general public knew, not just the dedicated list that we have, because there were
I see what you're saying.
faith-based organizations left off of that list, as well as community civic organizations. So I just wanted a public announcement from the dais that those bags are available.
So that's a process. So also, people who need information can reach out directly to our director to talk about a supply, to talk about usable bags. Anything we can do to ease the process, we will do.
Right, and we'll have some here at City Hall as well. And also, we can make further public announcements. You know, we can do more on social media to back it up.
And
you're welcome.
Alderman Finlayson, we will do a press release again on that.
Okay.
So thank you
That'll
so
be
much.
great. Thank you. I didn't mean to be out of order, but I didn't want to lose that moment.
Alderman Pendell Charles and then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Gall, for reaching out, especially to some of our underserved communities. But as you indicated, they will be available here in City Hall. But it might be nice for those who come and testify to have them on the back table as well. Is that an option as well?
Tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay, so I don't know where they are exactly right now.
Tonight, no,
okay,
but in the future.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Alderman Savage.
I'm just curious what the rationale is. I'm curious what the rationale is for not suspending the rules, because this is a technical correction. It's corrected an error in the legislation we passed before to enable flawless application of, if we need to fine somebody, this gives us the legal authority to do it without any doubt.
So we had a very urgent, high stakes thing in front of us that we could not suspend the rules for. I feel like I'm not calling the bring your own bag bill a unimportant piece of legislation, but I feel like if we made a big deal about following the proper process, we should at least stick to that for the meeting today.
Okay, well, I think we need some nuance, though. If there's an error in something we pass, I think that's different than passing resolution offering support. I mean, I can see your point, but it gets a bit complicated when we're talking about something we need to do to ensure we can apply a law we've already passed in a legally sufficient manner.
I apologize, can I ask a question or out of order?
Yes.
If we don't get this passed tonight, is this going to mess with the start date of the bring your own bag bill?
Alderman Savage.
Pass it at our next meeting.
Well, I guess the question we have, I don't know. I guess the question that might be for the city attorney.
Well, actually, for the
I don't think it's going to impact the implementation, but it may impact the ability to fine without getting challenged.
That's the issue. So the law goes into effect, I think the date is January 22nd on the effective date. and you don't meet again until after that date. So we're correcting the fine.
So this has actual legal implication? Okay,
I believe it does. I will defer to the city attorney.
okay. For a point of procedure, since I was the lone dissenting vote, may I reconvene for the rule suspension? Look.
Have to reconsider.
Another motion to reconsider.
You need another person other than
Motion to
yourself.
reconvene.
Because you have to be in the majority.
Another person can reconsider
Reconsider?
the motion to, he can't do it.
Right.
Okay.
But someone else who was opposing him.
Make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
R4 of 25.
All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Can I get another motion to suspend the rules, please?
So moved.
Get a second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you so much.
So we'll have to
Thank you
move
for
to
making it.
adopt R4 of 25 on second reader.
Great.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
That's a roll call.
We need to do a roll call just to
Yes.
make it official.
Yes, Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Pinell Charles.
I'm sorry.
We're doing a roll call on the second reader for R4 25.
I zoned out a bit.
Oh, 425. The bag.
Got it, okay. That's what I thought. Got it, okay, yeah, aye. I
Alderman
was thinking
Finlay.
something else.
Aye. Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Alderman
your vote.
Schoenmeyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderman Huntley. Aye. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Okay, passes.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Sir, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R3824, condemnation and possession of real property at 245 West Street.
I would like to make a motion to postpone this for 60 days.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Gay has his hand up.
Thank you. We postponed it 60 days ago, I believe, in order to give the developer or the property owner at the time an opportunity to sell the property. Is that still in the process, or were we being told that it would be sold so that we would postpone the legislation?
As best I understand, Alderman Gay, that is still in the process. I have received an update from my constituent who's working on hopefully being able to build housing there. And as I understand, the folks who currently own that property don't have a whole lot of incentive to be quick in getting rid of it.
And they don't have the incentive because we keep postponing this. And I think as soon as this idea came up, I was an immediate fan for a number of reasons. One, it's been sitting vacant for far too long. Two, we all realize that we need additional housing stock. And to the point that Mr. Evans made when he came up, I'm curious if without an amendment, will the developer or developers have to stick to the original zoning requirements set in place, which was mixed use? Is that would that be a part of the development deal?
Yep, it is in the MX zone, so it would be subject to that.
And what about the arts requirement? Do we have a requirement that, maybe like individual units developed in the art district service, like art residence homes or anything like that?
I think, that is what I believe the director will encourage.
Mm-hmm.
So we know there are some incentive for artist housing that you can get funding for, but I don't know exactly what the proposal is.
Yeah.
But definitely I'm sure that we'll be pushing for some kind of gallery or something like that. Alderman Savage and Alderman Shannon, sorry.
I'll support the motion to postpone, but I agree with my colleague. I'm kind of more inclined just to pass this and get the ball moving. Because I also I'd like to see some mixed use for artist community instead of just housing for the wealthy. And I think this is a great way to make sure that happens. So maybe we can get some more information before the next 60 days to really determine if we need to pull the trigger on this or not.
Thank you. Alderman Shannemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm gonna me too my colleagues' statements go along with this, but we got to start getting ready to bring a stick down. So I'll go along with this delay one more time out of respect, but I think after another 60 days, we need to bring the hammer down.
I'm happy, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I? I'm happy to make a good faith commitment to my colleagues that I will not ask for an additional postponement on this, barring some dramatic change in circumstances. So I think if we can vote to postpone this for 60 days today, then I think I'll largely come down on the same side aisle as you folks.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. Is postpone a question for the clerk? Can it still go to committee? Or there should be no legislative action taken on it at all?
If you postpone it till a date certain, like the next city council meeting, and you want to send it to a committee prior to that, it's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, if we could, that'd be great. Not at our Housing and Human Welfare meeting, obviously, on the 21st, but if you would get information and bring it back to us in February, that'd be fantastic.
So, are you?
Housing and Human Welfare.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it possible, and maybe I didn't hear someone mention this, can we ask the planning staff to begin to look at options for this property? Instead of putting everything off for 60 days, why not begin to look at some options? You know, the Arts and Entertainment District does allow for housing for artists. And so maybe we can have the planning staff start to feel out some possibilities for us instead of just setting us all back for 60 days.
Thank you. Alderman Huntley.
I'd be completely supportive of that, Alderman Finlayson, and I'd just add that to the extent we want to prep our departments to get ready for this, I think the Office of Law is maybe even the most relevant, but certainly relevant in addition to the Planning and Zoning Department.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the postponement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R4624, Task Force to Study Residential Marine Vessels.
So
All
moved.
right. Thank you. All right, we have a bunch of amendments here. Top of my list is Alderman Gay's amendment, amendment number 1. Just going to go through these and vote on them individually, if that's okay to everybody, and then come back to it.
So moved.
Did we have it?
I think we move it and second it?
No, we haven't moved the amendments, have we?
We moved the bill and not any amendments.
Okay, well, you want to move amendment number 1, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
As we discussed at the last meeting, we lose legislative authority in October. So if we were to have this task force for a year, we would have effectively no say in what actually takes place. And so we push it back 6 months so that the council would have legislative authority to, take up the recommendations.
I accept that as
Is
a
that not
friendly
true?
amendment.
All right, friendly amendment coming in here. Alderman Huntley.
I just want to check, I very much take Alderman Gay's point, but we do have a deadline by which we can submit new legislation. And I just want to see if 6 months from now, so that would be July 13th, is that not past our deadline to submit new legislation anyway? I'd have to go back and double check.
I thought our deadline to submit legislation was October.
Right.
It's in our memorandum here today. I don't have the, so our deadline to change ordinances is Thursday, July 31st, if they would not be referred to the Planning Commission. So I don't think.
Resolution, but.
No, I understand. But if we're going to make ordinances based on this, then I'm just saying we want to double check that the deadline for the task force report to come back is not after we would do that. But it looks like it's not. So issues does not exist.
Let me Point of information.
Alderman Gay, yes?
Thank you. So you said it was July.
So in our memorandum that we received today, the deadline for submission of legally sufficient legislation, not for introduction, but for the supporting materials, is Thursday, July 31st. So were we to pass this tonight, they form within 6 months to get us back their answer 6 months from today, be July 13th. And then we would have a couple weeks to get the information submitted, and then theoretically an ordinance can be introduced up till September 8th. So I think this is fine.
I guess my question then would be to the city attorney. If we get recommendations back, the council agrees on, some of those recommendations, we put together, a package, would the legislation obviously be drafted and ready? Is that something that the Office of Law will be able to do then? Because we'd have 2 weeks.
It's probably not whether we can draft it, it's what you're going to come up with. If you come up with it, we can draft it. We'll do whatever it takes to get it done within the time frame you set.
And I would say it's going to be tight. We'll probably have to suspend the rules a few times.
If Alderman Chandler will let us.
Alderman Arnett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would point out that this resolution also calls for a report after 3 months, and I will tell you that I've already had good cooperation with the assistant city manager and the harbor master, so a lot of the salient information is already flowing in, will be available for the committee when it gets established, and they'll be making a 3-month report. So we'll be getting some information, and if they don't get it done in time for legislation, then we'll just have to move ahead with the legislation. But I do accept this as a friendly amendment.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know Alderman Arnett will agree with me on this one. I strongly urge, to the point of mandating, that we have on this task force not only people who are involved in the maritime industry and those operations, but people from all over different wards. Sometimes those wards may get left out. Their voices are not heard. There's always room for listening and understanding and learning more about the maritime industry for those who are not in wards, certain wards. So when I look at this task force in the end, I want to see engagement from folks on there who are not part of this industry, because that's going to be reflective of my vote when it comes to looking at this in its totality. And sometimes we lose sight of that, and I don't want that to happen. There may be people that we ask to be on here who have no idea what maritime is, but are willing to listen and learn. And I think this is an opportunity to look at the global picture of what our city looks like and what we want our city to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take a vote on amendment number 1? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Could Alderman Savage introduce amendment number 2?
Move amendment number 2 from Environmental Matters Committee.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Let's see, so this adds a watershed or creek association as one of the task force members, and also adds a couple of requirements for the task force to consider, having to do with looking at if house boats should be hardwired or require pump out service, and also that they should look at potential noise impacts and mitigation measures that would result from the houseboats.
So moved.
It's moved and seconded.
Point of
no discussion.
order, please.
Alderman Arnett.
I'm looking at amendment number 4, and we can do these in order, but amendment number 4 will undo quite a bit of amendment number 2. So I'm wondering, in the interest of time, if we can't discuss them together?
Point of order on that one. I think it would confuse things even more to do that. I think we should.
Fine.
Yeah. There's a lot of different individual sponsors here, so, we'll.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, sorry.
Well, I will
Alderman
speak to
Finlayson?
it if we're not taking them together on this amendment, Amendment 2. We've heard from the community this evening, and you're going to hear me say this more than once, I'm sure. We keep adding more and more for this task force to do. Some of the items are legitimate and some are just stuff to add, literally. And this is one of those. I have no issue with including someone in the watershed. I would assume that that would be a given. But to ask them to deal with pump outs and that kind of thing, we've heard that that is not an issue, but it's being made an issue. And so I will oppose this, and I encourage my colleagues to oppose this.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett.
Mr. Mayor, it's not an issue for the liveaboards who are on small boats with small holding tanks. If there are large houseboats, and we've had experience with this already, there were 2 houseboats next to the chart house several years ago, and their holding tanks were so big that the pump out facilities from the harbor master had to come twice to each boat to empty the holdout tanks. So it's not an issue, and I think later on we're going to address trying to take the liveaboards out of the action here, but it is an issue for larger vessels, and we need to figure out, and it's something that the harbor master raised as a very specific concern for me. They just don't have the capacity. So I'm not sure that pump outs is not an issue. It does need to be looked at.
And how long ago? I don't remember that. Is that before my term?
Yes. Okay. Things did happen before.
So 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
No, it was probably 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay.
There were 2 houseboats parked right beside the chart house.
Okay.
And they were there for sale. It was probably in 2008. That led to the genesis of the current House barge legislation in Title 15.
Thank you for that clarification before my time. Thank you. Alderman Finlayson, still on?
I would say it's before all of our times. But we seem to use one example as an example for the whole. And that is a problem for me. We know just one or even 2 examples do not represent all. And we have rules and we have laws that we promulgate right here. But then we don't use our power to do that, and we complain about stuff.
Couldn't agree with you more there.
I'm sorry?
I could not agree with you more there.
Well then, that's not a good argument as far as I'm concerned to support this. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the committee's rationale, I think, is to respond to something we've heard from the public, that there were a number of concerns raised about how waste is going to be managed by houseboats, and I honestly don't know what the requirements would or should be. If houseboats are introduced as was proposed, should we require that they be hardwired into a sewer system, or are we going to allow them, or should we require they have to be dealt with via pump boats? And the other question is, do the pump boats have capacity? Because if you add a certain number of short-term rentals or houseboats that require pump outs, I don't know if we have the capacity to do that. And so I guess, I think we have some folks from the Harbor Master's office. They may be able to speak to whether or not this is a concern we need to include on this.
Jacob and Tyler are here. If you would come forward, maybe just to the podium there. Okay, great, come forward, yep.
Because I don't really understand the issue super well, in particular for the waste, but I was.
Let's hear it for our amazing harbour master guys, we love them.
So, do you gentlemen have information as far as, I don't know how houseboats are typically handled. Are they typically hardwired or utilize pump-out boats? Is that something that we need more information on before we develop regulations regarding number of houseboats permitted in a marina? So could you enlighten us with any information along those lines?
I think Jacob Nold, Harbor Master's Office. I think with just the tendency for these house barges to be rentals and the frequency of turnover from tenants to tenants, they're gonna require more and more pump outs a lot more frequently. Being hardwired to the plumbing is it eliminates the need for our boat, which takes that service away from other transient or residential boaters.
To be clear, Tyler Northfield, Harbor Master's Office. The pump-out boat can only be used for transit vessels, so it's not supposed to be pumping out any commercial vessel at all.
Pump-out boats can only be used
recreational boat.
For recreation.
Yes. Correct, recreational.
So if we're to permit houseboats that are, at least majority of the time, if not all the time, in the dock, they would have to be hardwired per our current code or?
Current policy, yes, because the pump-out boat is not, the contract that we have with the state does not let us pump out non-transient recreational boats.
State doesn't allow, okay. So I'm just thinking this out, I'm thinking through this out loud here. So if we potentially if we're looking to potentially increase density of houseboats, which I think was the proposal that spurred all this, the question would then become, well, they would have to be hardwired then, right? So I guess, is there a permitting process to make sure that those are hardwired into the sewer system because they're not going to be able to be utilized as a pump out boat, right? So the question would become, and this is again why I think we need to look at this, is do we have to improve our existing code regarding how that's handled with houseboats?
So some of the issues that you're addressing are issues that were flagged by the Department of Planning and Zoning and also by the fire marshal. The fire marshal brought up some of the electrical code, and Department of Planning and Zoning brought up some of the issues such as if this is a residence, do we require residential requirements such as hard wiring, hard plumbing, and in other jurisdictions, in some other jurisdictions, that is the case. That's what, for example, in California, in other places, they require them to be treated more like residences and the infrastructure that goes along with that. And as Mr. Northfield was pointing out, the pump out boat, which is already at maximum utilization most of the time, is under a grant from DNR. That's how we acquired it. And one of the grant stipulations is what he's pointing out is we are not supposed to use the pump out boat for anything other than recreational boating, not for commercial boating, not for residential houseboats. We're supposed to use it for recreational boating.
Okay. Well, again, so I mean, it proves my point is that this is a larger conversation that I would personally like to have the task force handle. It sounds like there's more to it than at least that I've realized. I want to make sure it's done right. We passed the no discharge zone because we don't want waste in our waterways because it does lead to algal blooms and potentially bacterial issues. And so I really want to make sure we're not going to be shooting ourselves in the foot. I want to get expert advice, but that's, again, our whole reason with this is because there's so many aspects that we need to look into with this, and we're hoping the task force will help us. So I ask that the council please at least agree to include these into the...
Lots of hands up, so I can see this is going to be a short process when we get to it. Alderman Schandelmeyer had his hand up, then Alderman Gay, then Alderman Huntley. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Savage, would you be amendable to change houseboat to house barge? And yes. I think that clarifies, I think that puts more clarifying language, keeps the liveaboard community definitely more out of it. We know a barge is definitely a more sedentary, stationary object, and it kind of makes it a little more clear that we're focusing on these more stationary objects. Is that something you're amenable to?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do I have to make a motion to amend Amendment 2?
The friendly amendment, I would accept that as a friendly amendment to the amendment.
Okay. So my motion is to change in the middle of the paragraph there, page 5, line 27, determine if house boats, change house boats to house barge or house barges.
Thank you.
And I think the rationale behind that is it makes it much more clear we're focusing on these stationary things. I think that protects the liveaboards, which are more transient, mobile vessels, and that kind of adds that extra layer of protection for that community.
Thank you. Alderman Gay next, and then Alderman Huntley.
Thank you.
Do we have to vote on that, or? Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Do you charge for the pump out or no?
So it's every tank's $5. So anything over 50 gallons, it's $1 more. So you have a 60-gallon tank, it's $6.
Okay. Doesn't seem like a lot, like we're making any revenue there. My question then to
Alderman Gay, most marinas have their own pump out facility, right?
Correct.
Okay, even better. Because what I think is absolutely ridiculous about this, and I've expressed this previously, it's like, obviously, I do appreciate what the alderman is doing here by changing the language, because there is some legitimate confusion. You're saying house boats, house barges, you're saying commercial, some are residential. I'm agreeing with the alderwoman. Stick to the basics and why this was drafted in the first place. It was a business owner who wanted to do something within his legal right as a business owner. They ran into some issues. They came to the Council for help. Instead of fixing the issue at hand, we've created 17 other issues, and now you have this terrible divide between the residential boat owners, the commercial at this point, which is not even really defined, and the marina owners are getting involved in this. And I think we created a terrible problem. I really do. And I'm curious from their perspective, is this making things worse? Like how, if we, once we get, the task force up and running, I'm assuming that you all will be involved in that, then we have to turn around very, very quickly and accept your recommendations. I mean, how does that impact your office? Obviously, in operation and communications with current liveaboard residents. I mean, it just seems excessive to me.
It's going to be a lot of work. I don't know if we have enough time to, the date we want to.
Go ahead and just tell them what you think it'll do for them. What kind of work will it generate for you guys?
This is basically a full-time person if we wanted to go down this route. I'll have to dedicate one person in our office just to do all this. And right now we're at capacity. I only have 4 full-time people.
You mean the task force?
Yeah.
The task force, 6 months, and then obviously the follow-up that they would have to work on as well.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Huntley.
I think this determination we're talking about here is either straightforward enough that it can get determined in the council meeting, in which case it's no big deal to add it, or it's so complicated it can't get determined in the council meeting, in which case we really ought to add it. So either way, I say we add it and I say we vote now.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused because the sponsor of this amendment did not know that we don't have our own pump out boats.
I didn't
my
say
hope
that.
originally was that, and my involvement originally was to get people around the table and resolve this problem. And as my colleague has just said, it's been blown into something considerably more. And from what the resolution says, the harbor master is supposed to lead this discussion. I don't see a staffing impact statement to this. I just heard the deputy, is it deputy? Okay. Say it's going to be a lot of time. So it truly is going to impact, and at the beginning of your busiest season, you're going to be taken away because you're going to be running this task force for the next 6 months. You know, I'm just uncomfortable about how this whole thing has come about. It wasn't necessary. And I know what the end result is, and it is very divisive. It is extremely divisive in the city right now. And so I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
All right, let's take a vote on amendment number 2.
The amendment to the amendment, right?
No, we don't need this friendly amendment. So.
Amendment 2 as amended.
Yep. Friendly amended, right? Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Now, amendment number 3, Shannemeyer amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This adds to the required membership of...
Point of information. Did we just vote on the amendment to the amendment, or did we just vote on the amendment?
No, the amendment to the amendment was a friendly amendment, so it's included. So
Okay,
it's
I'm
now
sorry, I did not hear that.
references
Would like to change my vote.
house barges. Yeah.
Okay.
You changing your vote?
Yes, I am.
A no?
No.
On house barges, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me just say, it was a voice vote, so it's still passed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Shannemeyer, can you move that, please?
So moved.
Second.
In a second. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amendment 3 adds to the required membership of the task force. It will include marina property owners and members of the liveaboard community. I think it is essential to bring these two people to the table as members to the task force so that their voices are heard.
Thank you. I'm sure we all agree with that.
Yes.
No debate.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Amendment number 4, Alderman Finlayson.
And this really was the Rules of City Government amendment, and that was to strike the language from amendment number 2, which dealt with adding the watershed and creek association and adding pump out boats and other service impacts to the list of things that are supposed to be accomplished in the committee.
Do we have a second on that? Sorry.
It was by a committee, so this is from the Rules Committee.
So you're moving
we don't
that?
need a second.
But
Oh,
point of
okay.
order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
The Rules
Alderman-
Committee did not take a position on this resolution.
Alderman Finlayson.
Did we not take a?
We did not... I apologize.
Did we not vote on it? That could be my mistake. It's listed as mine. It says on behalf of the Rules Committee, but I'll take it.
So we're hearing from Rules Committee members that it wasn't voted on?
So this,
I remember this, if I may.
Please.
Alderman Shannemeyer?
This was something I had proposed to deal with some of the discomfort around Amendment 2, specifically around that pump out hardwiring issue. I will say for my own personal standards, I do think we addressed that with my friendly amendment on Amendment 2, which was my main hang up on that. And then the other portion of relevance to Amendment 4 was on page 6, lines 21 through 24. And that was develop recommendations for determining a fair and equitable method for fee in lieu of property tax for marine vessels, for residential vessels. That one I would like to be the main crux of this, if my colleagues will allow it. My rationale behind that is the folks who are living in these, whether it be if we decide to allow residential barges full-time, if that's where the task force goes, or for the current liveaboard community, which we do allow, they are paying a slip fee, which is essentially a rent to the marina itself. It would be the equivalent of me as a renter on top of my rent also paying property tax for the apartment that I am renting. And I also want to justify that by saying with our land value assessment study, we know that our marinas are revenue positive, and it's not even like a barely above it. They're very revenue positive. They're one of the main drivers economically of our city. I don't think we need to be overly concerned about them being a big drain on our city, on our resources. They're one of the main subsidizers of other areas of our city. So I feel like that extra taxation or extra fees would put an undue burden on the liveaboard community itself. So if my colleagues will indulge me, I would like to strike the first two portions of this, since I no
Are we
longer-
on amendment number 4?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is amendment number 4.
I'm in total agreement with striking page 6, lines 21 through 24. As I said earlier, I am not in support of, and I'm pulling it up, I am still in support of removing the pump outs and the commercial vehicle comparisons. So our amendment speaks to 3 different things: adding watershed and association, creek associations, striking, determining whether it's needed, whether it's hardwired, while we're striking the necessity for it being hardwired and being served by pump-out services. And then, of course, the third piece is what you just mentioned about taxing the liverboards. So those are the 3 components. Are you asking that we accept your discussion as a friendly amendment and that we strike 1 and 2 and only keep 3? And Alderman, he's the maker of the motion, so I'm giving him an opportunity.
Yes, because adding members of the Watershed or Creek Association, that part of Amendment 2 was not controversial. I feel like everyone in the council was in full agreement on that. The pump out connection issue, that one may be more controversial. Some of our colleagues disagree here or there, but I feel like after the change in language of houseboat versus house barge, the vote total on that was overwhelmingly in favor of that language choice. So the new portion of this that would have any significant impact on task force recommendation and policy would be the portion of do we add an additional tax or fee on the liveaboard.
Point of
And that is what you're
Mr. Mayor.
striking.
So I would like to, if the sponsor of the amendment will accept the friendly amendment to this amendment, I would like to keep it focused on that last part of, on page 6, strike lines 21 through 24, to keep it focused on the fees and taxes on the liveaboards due to their paying of
And at this point, we don't have a second on this motion, so.
But also, point of information, Alderman Schottenmeier, isn't that what your Amendment 5 does?
Amendment 5 does a different thing, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
So that's not
Seems
it.
like they're the same.
Well, I will second it, but I want to be clear. Did we approve the Savage amendment that added Watershed and Creek Association?
Yes.
And did we include the strikeout on hardwired and pump-out boats?
Yes.
You mean in 4, in number 4?
Yes.
Well, I think we're all pretty confused, so
3,
we'll
that's why
have
I'm
to
asking.
read exactly what we're voting on.
I'd like to make a point of order. I believe that since we've just voted on the Watershed and Creek Association portion of Amendment 4 in Amendment 2, and on the whether or not houseboats should be hardwired into the sewer system portion, we've just voted on both of those, so I believe it'd be out of order to vote on those again. So I think the only portion of this amendment that is in order is the third portion.
I disagree.
And I would just say that a house barge, the door is still open for a houseboat as long as it is licensed and can move it on its own. And so it comes in a different category. So the hardwiring is what we saw in Europe, right?
Houseboats are a subset of house barge in the current code.
Right, in the current code. That's what the task force is for, right? So, so I think a lot of us are going to just have to spell out exactly what we're doing here, and maybe we could print it out before we vote on it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think it's just simple as calling the question right now on Amendment 4. Look, we just voted on an Amendment 2 to add the watershed or creek association. We've also voted on the hardwiring for the houseboats. The only thing, as the Alderman just said, we didn't vote on is page 6, strike lines 21 through 24. What the Alderman from Ward 5 has just said is we don't. His friendly amendment would be that we don't vote on the first thing on page 4, line 8, because that's already passed. We strike on page 5, strike the 2 new bullets. Okay, so, all right, so fine. We strike on page 4, we strike on page 5, we vote on page 6, strike lines 21 through 24. It's just that simple. So everything in Amendment 2 still counts, and the only thing from this amendment that carries forward is on page 6, strike lines 21 through 24.
Does that keep most people happy? No?
Yeah. There is a page 6 on the amendment too also.
Put that.
Regina's saying that's okay. I'm going with Regina, yeah.
Did the Alderman call the question?
Alderman Schnellmeyer, I'll second your amendment.
And I'll call the
Friendly
question.
amendment.
Second.
Thank you.
I need a second on the question.
Second.
Right. And then to call the question.
We're on number 5 or 4?
No, we're on 4.
4, okay.
There is no 5.
Okay, we call the question.
I don't have.
Let's, yeah, and it's seconded. I think we should do a roll call on, yeah.
We're just doing that, yeah.
As amended.
So before we vote, Alderman Pendell Charles.
The reason I'm really asking, and thank Arnett who suggested it, I just want to add an Amendment 6 about the groups that we could add, but we can do this and then I'll get to that.
Okay.
The question has been called.
We're nearly there.
It's one sentence.
Amendment 6?
Yes.
There's no amendment.
Amendment 4.
I'm going to add it.
We're on Amendment 4.
Okay.
And the question has been called.
But I just,
Yep. We're this close on Amendment 4. Come on.
okay.
Ready?
Okay,
So we're calling the question here, and I'm going to do a roll call on it. I vote yes.
okay. Alderman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Schnellmeyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
No.
Alderman Huntley.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
So it passes to call the question. So now you are voting on
5.
Amendment number 4.
Nope.
That was,
No.
No, you're voting on amendment number 4, the last line that says on page 6, strike lines 21 through 24. No, you voted to call the question. So you stop all the debate and you're going to vote on that amendment.
We got enough votes to call
Please.
the question? Right. Okay. Can somebody do what Regina said?
But you can call the roll.
Yes.
Okay, so Alderman Schnellmeyer moved that one-liner. On page 6, strike lines 21 through 24, and Sheila seconded. The calling the question means no more discussion, and Mayor, it's your turn.
So we're going to vote?
You're going to vote on that
We don't have
amendment.
to,
vote
we can
yes.
just do a voice vote, right?
You can do a voice vote,
Okay.
whatever kind of vote you want.
We got the voices, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I thought there was a few opposition there. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, amendment number 5, please, Alderman Schnellmeyer, can you move that?
So moved.
Second.
Can we get a second? And some clarification, please.
I would like to offer a friendly amendment.
Yes, sir.
Because we heard the testimony. I would like to add to this on page 1, line 30, changing the title of the task force to houseboat, floating home, and other commercial marine vessels.
I shall second and accept.
Thank you.
Reread the line for me, please.
Yeah, thanks.
Pardon me? It's line 30 on page 1.
It's the title.
Title on everything.
the title.
So can you just repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Strike residential and put, substitute commercial marine vessels.
So Amendment 5, it was just kind of the last, one more way to kind of insulate the liveaboard community. I feel like this was tossing a very wide net, and I was worried they could get caught in this. This was just after some final meetings with people over the weekend. It was just, we want to be left alone. And then the other portion of this is to really focus on the short-term rental issue that has come up. We got a lot of emails over the weekend. That is, I think, the crux of what a lot of people's concerns are. I don't think anyone on the council wants to go into that without doing a little bit of further work, whether or not we want to go forward with legalizing those or not. That can be a debate for later, but I think we want to try to keep this focused onto that issue specifically. So I would ask my colleagues to accept Amendment 5 as amended.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much. 2 quick questions.
Yes, sir.
For on page 5, strike lines 15 and 16, develop recommendations for tracking and regulating liveaboards, including registration, permitting, inspection, and enforcement procedures. Are you doing that because it's redundant in what already exists?
I'm doing that because the liveaboards already have to go through such a stringent insurance and inspection process, and additional tracking and recommendations and requirements and regulations are going to add cost and procedures to one of the last obtainable housing types that people can get in the city.
So we could just, and let me, just for clarity here, so you want to, because their insurance, et cetera, process and getting the actual boat and all of that is stringent process, you don't want the city to then collect that data? Because this all this seems like is saying to me, oh, and enforcement procedures, but should we at least be collecting it now?
Because the city would be adding additional regulations on top of that and additional permitting, inspections, and enforcement. That would add more layers, more code, more costs, and that would get passed on to the community. And the other fear is adding those process would make more marinas, make marinas that do accept them just kind of wave their hands and go, we don't want to deal with this, and then they'd have to leave.
Okay, this is another thing where I feel like it's creating an issue that, and so I will support you on this then. If, you know, I don't get why, so I guess what you're doing is actually right, to then remove the requirement so that it's not creating any additional layers. My second question then, because I'm actually confused on this, because I just heard the little banter that they had back and forth when he says that, you know, a house boat is a subset of a house barge. So there are, and we've heard in testimony, that there are residential boats that do not leave their slips. And so are they now then going to be looked at as like commercial watercraft because they aren't moving?
If they're being used for commercial purposes, I suppose, like short-term rentals, I suppose they would be considered commercial. If they're being used for full-time residential, I don't know enough about that process. I guess that's what the task force is going to be looking at. The liveaboards have a slightly different situation. Their boats are mobile. They can actually move. Some of them sail in 6 months out of the year, work, then get out, go to another port. Others live full time.
Does it? So it has to move on its own for it to be considered a liveaboard? Is that what I'm?
Yeah.
Okay, and so anything that has assisted moving is then considered a commercial boat. That's the only thing I think that'll be helpful out of this task force, is creating definitions on what exactly is the, you know, a houseboat, the liveaboard, all of that. And so, yeah, I will absolutely support this. I thank you for bringing this forward.
Let's vote.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add a friendly amendment, which we'll call Amendment 6. Look to page 4 on line, I guess, 8, but then we're going, I think we already have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. We already have an H, I think. And I want to add an I. Thank you, Alderman Arnett. Stakeholder groups that do not represent the maritime and marine industries. That kind of covers what I mentioned earlier, to make sure people across the city are welcomed into and onto this task force.
Good, that. Can we get a second for that, please?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, could I get a motion to vote on this as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Sorry. It's a roll call, yeah. But it's on the floor. Alderman Savage.
Thank you. So this is a motion on second reader as amended? Okay. So just a few comments. I do want to just clarify some of the record, because I've some of the information about pump out boats. So they're on Back Creek in my ward. They're Jabins and Port Annapolis are some of the two largest marinas in my ward, and they do not have pump out services. They rely on the city's pump out boat. So I do thank you to the council for including that amendment to look at that. And as far as Spa Creek, I believe there's one facility on all of Spa Creek that handles that. The Annapolis City Marina used to have a pump out boat when we passed the no discharge zone. But I think it might be out of commission at the moment. And that was one of the incentives we included in the maritime zone refresh we did, but 2 years ago was, I believe, adding pump out boats or fuel pumping was added as an incentive to, if they were to add that capacity to the maritime districts, they could get extra bonuses as far as having non-maritime uses on the property. So that was just to clarify. But I do want to thank my colleagues for amending the legislation. I think it does make it better. And I also want to ask and thank my colleagues ahead of time for supporting this, because I know, and I think the Alderman Arnett shares my sentiment here that, one of the reasons why this is requested is because we believe that we have a lot of concern about a lot of unknowns regarding potentially adding houseboats or house barges, whatever the term is, bottom line, and adding short-term rentals on marina properties. And the questions really become, one of the key questions are whether they should be considered maritime or non-maritime. Does that conflict with the very complicated refresh we did a couple years ago in the maritime districts? And because that was a very tough balance that we worked out there with that legislation. And so, but bottom line is, we have a lot of questions. I think this task force will help answer them for us. And, I think as the two aldermen with probably the most marinas, and I think Alderman Huntley's a close third there.
No, he's not even close.
Oh, he's not even close. Okay.
Yeah. I have 800, you have 650, and he has about 200.
So I think this will help get us on the same page, everybody hopefully on the council, as far as what we might be able to do to adjust our code to potentially regulate houseboats even further to determine what density would make the most sense. And I do appreciate it, because I think this will help get the information that the Alderman and I really need to be comfortable with this. And again, I think...
Is the library closed?
I asked that. I say that because I do appreciate it. I think it's important, since it is going to impact, it could potentially impact our wards significantly. I do appreciate efforts to try to bring us on board and get this information for us. So thank you.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you. Very, very quickly, just for the record and everybody that was working on the task force, I do not like the way this was started. I think it's undermining a business owner's ability to make money on something that seemingly works and operates in other parts of the country well. And so my goal in this, in supporting this, is that the liveaboard community is taken care of, but also the marina owners are able to do what they see best for their marina. And so this has gotten a little classist for me, and it's also gotten very, very much borderline racy. And so I just would hope that we play fair on this task force and we come out with recommendations that benefit the community. Happy medium, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This legislation has grown from what could have been a roundtable discussion with all of the stakeholders, bringing their concerns and getting answers to their questions. And instead of giving staff and the community an opportunity to weigh in as such, we took it to another level. And that level is the resolution. You know, there's no wonder that the community distrusts some of our actions because they see us as manipulating things that when they come to us with the request, we seem to sometimes find a way to not get to it. And so this legislation not only has sent the message to the community that if there's a little guy out there who needs some assistance, just be careful. It is extremely divisive in our community. You know, you gentlemen, yes, have the waterfront wards, but you didn't grow up here like many of us living in Annapolis did, all of whom lay claim to our waterfronts at a time when our waterfronts were not popular places to be. So we all have every right to represent constituents around the city. And thank you, Alderwoman Pendel Charles, for adding that, Alderman Arnett for adding that to this task force. But I can't say that there are too many things that have been as divisive as this. The alderman said classes, I think, because it is dividing between the haves and the have-nots. Doesn't have to be that way. Doesn't have to be that way, but the message is very clear, and it's unfortunate. And others are watching. Others who are doing this kind of legislation well are looking at Annapolis and thinking, you know, that's Annapolis. They don't want you there. So, you know, I am going to oppose this, and I'm a big proponent for task force. And when you put the right people around the table, you get a fair result. I hope that's going to be the case here, that there's going to be a fair result, and that every voice is heard, understood, and considered when the final decision comes down. So, thank you.
Alderman Pendel Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't echo enough what Alderwoman Finlayson just said. Those of us who've been here for generations know the story. And I'm going to vote for this, hopeful and confident and prayerful that we will get to a result that's equitable and just. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you all. So we're going to vote in a second. It's going to be a roll call. I just want to go on the record here. All due respect to my city council, but there is nothing more Annapolis than to live aboard a boat. It's everybody's dream when they come to that. And some person's boat might be a Hinckley, but some person's boat might be a houseboat, and they're entitled to have a boat if it's a real boat, if it moves and does that. Most marinas regulate houseboats. So my position was always just change it from 2% to 4%. What is that going to do? But we will have a task force. I have no confidence that it will get resolved before our election, but I'm hopeful that it will. And I thank everybody because it's clearly a passionate thing that we all care about in this city. But I'm just letting you know, all due respect, I'm just going to vote no. So thank you. So can we call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
No.
Alderman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
No.
Alderman Shademeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Yes.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Huntley?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you. Let's get to work. Awesome.
I would point out, if you have people that you want to be on the task force, we need to get the names into the mayor.
Is it to the mayor?
The mayor.
Director Guile.
The mayor.
Not director, sorry. I mean,
appoints and the
assistant city.
council approves.
Absolutely, thank you.
I would suggest that Alderman Gay especially find someone in Ward 6 who would serve as a very good representative.
He's going to do it himself.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda.
The back of the room have been waiting.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution R5724, Annual Meeting and Tourism Industry Reception Fee Waiver.
All right, is there a motion to adopt R-57-24 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Right. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir, Mayor Buckley?
I can't believe we put you guys at the back of the agenda. I'm so sorry. You came for a good one. Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderman Huntley.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item.
The agenda is complete, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now, do we have anything else for good order? Alderman Pendle Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the good of the order, yes, we have come up with a Public Safety Standing Committee date, which is Thursday, January 30th, 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. I understand that one of our colleagues is unable, but Alderman Gay has indicated he will be here.
Thank you very much. Alderman O'Neill?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ward 2 is having, the Alderwoman from Ward 2 is having a town hall tomorrow night, Tuesday the 14th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the stadium in the Ackerson Towers, and pretty robust agenda, but all are invited, especially Ward 2 members. A lot of things to talk about going on in the city. Thank you. There is plenty of parking.
How much is it?
Free parking tomorrow night.
Is it really free? Oh, okay, good.
Limited word
Anybody else? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. That was a good meeting.